Okay, artists, by now you've gone through our PowerPoint on our tessellations. We are going to be starting with a simple translation tessellation. So translation, that SL, easy way to remember it, is slide. So we are doing a simple sliding tessellation. This front page is going to be there for you in your packet to just help you walk you through this project. So anytime you have questions, something doesn't make sense, try to look here first and answer your own questions. Now this is our little practice tessellation. So what you're going to be doing is you are going to be cutting this out, easy peasy. Now I've cut that out, I'm going to put this aside and just focus on this right now. Since we're doing a simple transition or translation tessellation where we slide, we're going to start out by cutting out each of these little shapes that's just created by making a cool line. And notice I'm keeping this all in one piece. Okay, now so I've cut that out. Again, I've cut it out all in one piece. And the translation tessellation means we're going to slide it over. So now I've slid it over. I'm going to grab my tape or just have that accessible. Oops. Now here's a really, really important part. You need to make sure that this is exact as far as our length or distance right here, as well as right there and right there. So if I tape it down up there, then that's not going to work out. It needs to be as exact as possible. So if I take my ruler, I'm just going to measure and I'm going to see where that's coming down. I'm not going to mark on my ruler because I'm going to ruin it for everybody else, but I see it's coming to that line right there. So I'm going to make sure that I move this ruler right over here. I want to make sure that I tape this down exactly to that same line right there. Okay, now I'm going to have my tape handy. I'm going to have to reposition this. There's my tape. Reposition that, make sure that's exact. There we go. Now I'm not going to worry. I know it's really, really tricky to kind of hold that in place. So if my tape goes over that just a little bit, look how easy this is. I just go snip, snip, and get that extra little tape off. Same thing right here. Just snip that extra little tape off and just make sure that that gets into the trash can. Whoop. So now I'm ready to do the exact same thing right here. Don't stress out. I'm not showing you anything new. I'm just repeating the exact steps with this little shape right here. And notice when I'm cutting, guys, just a little reminder, I think it's easiest to turn your paper rather than turning the scissors. So you're noticing I'm not turning my scissors very much. I'm just turning that paper. Okay, so the translation. What I'm going to do is slide it over. And again, make sure you're not flipping it over. You're just taking it as is and sliding it straight over. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get my tape handy just so I have that ready to go. I'm going to take my ruler just to make sure that I've got this accurately. Okay, so I'm seeing that comes to that line that's just before that little halfway mark. So I'm going to bring this over here. Make sure that it's to that line just before that little halfway mark. Okay, again, I've got too much tape on there. What do? Easy peasy, just cut it off. Okay, so now I have my first translation tessellation, and obviously this one was created for you. Your next step next week, you are actually going to be creating your own one of these, and this is really cool. Now, in our little packet, we have the first page, we've got the second page that we cut out of. This page actually in a few minutes might be something really, really fun to kind of test out or sketch out your translation designs. But in order to test this out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trace around this. Now this paper is copy paper, so it's really thin and flimsy. So it's not the friendliest for to use as a stencil, but just do your best. Next week when we create our own, you're going to be using Bristol or tag board, so it's going to be much thicker paper that's still easy to cut, but it's nice to trace around, a lot nicer than this. There we go. So I have my first one sketched out right here. I know I'm having to block your view of this a lot by holding it down with both hands, but it's very, very important to hold that down with both hands. So now I got this one traced. I'm going to slide it over, because remember that's our translation, is it slides over. The nice thing is I've already traced this side right here when I did that first one, so I don't have to retrace that. That's pretty cool. And I'm noticing also this fits together perfectly. So yay, I've got a successful translation tessellation. Once again, remember, I am really holding this little stencil down or template with my left hand, since I'm a right-handed drawer, and I'm holding it down really, really tightly to get that little stencil shape drawn. There we go. Now I could keep going, and obviously I could take this and slide it down right there, and notice, oh, that matches up nicely. And so I would keep going, but I tested this out. This works. I've made my first successful tessellation. Now if you have time today, or maybe next week, color your own tessellations right here. Now you don't have to do this the way I'm doing this. I'm going to kind of go ahead and kind of block in a square that's about 6 by 6 of these smaller squares around. So 6 across, 6 down. So I kind of have that blocked in. It's not perfect. This is just sketching, practicing, so don't worry if it's not perfect. Now when you do create your own tessellation or translation tessellation, the line that you start on one side needs to end on that side. So if I start a line right here and go whoop, like that, and then I have to bring it back to the same side. So I'm going to bring it in right there. There we go. So now this little shape right here needs to translate, so I'm going to slide across right here. Since I'm not cutting it out, I'm just redrawing it. This is a nice thing about using this little grid right here, is I can look and see pretty exactly how I drew this. So I see this line kind of cuts that little corner right there, goes up, and then I'm looking at crosses back in right there, kind of dips down, goes up right about that line right there. It almost touches this line right here, so I'm going to kind of come out, and then it comes back in, cuts that little corner right there, and then goes back in like so. It's not perfect, but it gives you an idea, okay? So at this time I could go ahead and shade that in just to help me visualize what that's going to look like. All right, so that's the first part of this tessellation. Now I've got a choice. I could kind of redraw this over here, or since I've got an eraser, I'm doing this in pencil, I could go ahead and do my second part right here on this one. That's for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start my line. I'm going to press a little bit harder right here so I can see it. Now if I start my line on this bottom side, I'm going to have to end my line on this bottom side too. So I'm just coming down right there. Okay, I made some kind of like a little volcano type shape right there. It could be anything though. So once again, to translate, I'm going to slide this up. I'm going to start my line. See, it's starting right about there. And then I've got that shape redrawn. I'm going to go ahead and shade this. And actually, since this is going to be kind of the negative space right here, I'm just going to go ahead and erase that out right there. Now obviously, when you do this on the Bristol board or the tag board, you're actually going to be cutting this out. So you're not going to have to try to redraw it and get it exact. This is just your practice to kind of help you visualize and get your design down. I don't want to tell you all of the cool things that some of our artists have found in this design when they've done this over and over, but be creative. Think outside the box. Anything goes. You know, the original example obviously is kind of like, looks like a little monster or dragon, but you can have fun with it. Change it up, have fun, and that's that. I can't wait to see what you do with these guys.